Welcome everybody to another episode of Lunar Continuity, where we talk about design, development, and all the other crazy sort of stuff that we find online. I'm your host, Alex, and with me, as usual, the beautiful and fantastic Chris Perko. Hello, Chris.
Beautiful and fantastic. Thank you. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. I'm feeling alive. Luckily, I've been almost sick for an entire month. I've been battling bronchitis and fever and cold, and yeah, it was terrible. But I'm feeling great now. Finger crossed. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you're back because otherwise I would never know how to develop Gutenberg because it's not documented well. So I'm very happy that you're back to make videos for me.
Yes, me too. I'm excited. I'm not as happy as I usually am recording tutorials because
Yeah.
of Gutenberg. It's terrible. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of things happened for both of us in this past almost
hmm
2 months since we did the last episode, right? From my end, yes, as you saw, I started the Gutenberg series finally. Like lots of people were asking for it. And I thought, since I've been building a couple of custom blocks and I redid my website all based on Gutenberg, I was like, yes, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to record a tutorial.
Sure.
I was absolutely wrong. It's terrible. Like the documentation doesn't make sense. Sometimes I realize that I did something, but when I try to explain it, I
hmm
don't know like if I'm explaining it right because it doesn't really make sense from a technical point of view what I'm doing. But if I'm not doing that, and it's not working. So it's a lot of like for 15 minutes video, I spend probably a couple of hours because once every 2 minutes there's a hiccup or I need to stop and
Yeah.
doing some research to be sure that I'm saying proper things or the API didn't change or whatever. And the documentation is terrible. So
Oh
it's
yeah. Yeah. No, I liked in that one video. I think it might have been like your second episode where
mhm.
you were like, "Oh, if you want to learn more about this, well, it's not in the documentation, so good luck."
Yeah, exactly. Just do as I did. Like just crash
Yes.
and destroy and try to fix bugs by going on Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's insane and it's so convoluted. It's like 10 times harder than everything else you can do in WordPress. Even the
Mhm.
Walker Nav class or the settings API now seem a joke, like seems really,
Mhm.
really easy compared to developing for Gutenberg. And
Yeah.
my fear right now is that I don't even know for how long like this tutorial series is going to be relevant. Like how fast it's
Mhm.
going to be outdated, all the things that I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true.
So yeah, I'm in this conundrum. Like, should I keep going or should I
Right.
wait another year after the documentation is updated? But yeah, I think I will keep going, but I will leave it really like higher level. I won't go too deep into the technicality of
Mhm.
Gutenberg. I will try to do something really simple because yeah, all those things will absolutely change. It's insane.
Oh yeah. You're definitely gonna have to do like a follow-up tutorial on like, all right, how to make Gutenberg in 2020.
Yeah, fun.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. What's happening with you with Code Stage?
Yeah, so Code Stage, we talked about it on the last podcast, and it's kind of a way for you to easily, deploy like a WordPress site or, eventually Laravel to like a staging environment so you can send to your clients.
Hmm.
Um, slowly making progress. I haven't had a lot of time to work on it,
Hmm.
but yeah, so I've mostly been working on the back end of it. So there's not really been anything to really show. At first I kind of started working on the UI, and I was like, God, like 90% of this project is all back end, and
Yeah.
getting servers up and running and partitioning it and all this stuff. So I've been working on that. It's slowly making progress. I
Hmm.
want to get it to a point where the code base is understandable. So like right now it's a private repository.
Yeah.
I want to make it public. It's gonna be open source. But
Oh,
right now,
nice.
if you were to go into it and be like, oh, I want to contribute, you'd have no idea where to begin because
Hmm.
it's so minimal.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I'm hoping to work on it some more this summer once I get more settled into my job and aren't reading guides and stressing at night on things that I don't know.
Yes. Is it built on top of Laravel?
I initially started building the project on Laravel,
Hmm.
and when I got the job offer for this company, I immediately switched. I kind of like abandoned that project and rebuilt it in ASP.NET with C Sharp.
Ooh.
So that's what I'm building it in as kind of like a way for me to, learn and get better at what I'm doing in my regular job.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, wow, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Like it's especially I'm really curious how you're gonna
Hmm.
handle like spinning up and booting up a server and then putting it down or destroying it
Hmm.
temporarily or all these crazy things. That's really exciting.
Yeah, and I'm initially doing it with just DigitalOcean. They have a really good API for managing all the servers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to, make it more flexible to use, like SkySilk or
Yeah.
some of these others that might, maybe people want to use like their own VPS or something. But right now, I'm just kind of focused on DigitalOcean because that's kind of what I know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm hoping to make it more generic as the project goes along.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's amazing. Do you have any like average timeline, like potential timeline for a first alpha version?
Oh, hopefully by the end of summer, I would love to.
Oh, nice.
But
Yeah.
you know how us developers are,
Oh yeah, lazy and
So,
unreliable.
yep.
As usual, yeah. It's interesting what you said about making your repository ready for contributors and
Mhm.
just like having the code readable, because it's the main issue that we were experiencing with Akira actually, which we've been working. I haven't done many tutorials recently, also because I've been coding a lot on Akira and the
Mhm.
team behind that it's pushing a lot. And a lot of people are engaged, like the community is really engaged into the project, and a lot of other developers are contributing to the Akira by creating PRs and shipping codes. And the main problem is that the three or four of us working together and chatting, it was totally fine. As soon as someone else was coming in and pushing code and trying to
Mhm.
propose changes, it was completely different because we completely forgot to create an editor config or a guideline on how to ship code or what we
Right.
accept and what we don't, and
Mhm.
what all the sections do and all these other stuff. So that was kind of like the hardest part of managing an open source project that a lot of people want to contribute to. It's specifying proper and understandable guidelines on how to contribute. Otherwise, it's just the
Right.
wild, wild west.
Yeah, yeah. Or you're just shooting down pull requests left and right, and or having to make changes yourself, and it's like you could have just coded it yourself at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And even like the simple thing is that indentation by tabs or spaces, two spaces or
Mhm.
four spaces. Like everyone has his own
Yeah,
preferences, right? So
right. And that really makes, that's a problem when you come to, cross-platform. Somebody might be developing on Linux, somebody might be doing it on a Windows system, and the
exactly.
whole different tabs is, a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, no, things are going great with Akira.
Good.
Finger crossed, probably we're gonna have an alpha version in a couple of months, maybe. The
Nice. I can't
canvas
wait.
is almost done. I think I'm gonna be able to do a live streaming during the week and some coding examples and show the status of the canvas and how it's connected to the layers panel and all the amazing things that we achieved.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm super excited. The last part that it's the most complicated one is wiring the canvas, all the objects to the file system or the save
Mhm.
manager that we have, because we're saving with a built-in Git history. So all the objects are gonna basically, we have a parser that everything gets converted into a string, into an SVG, and then converted into a saved into a JSON file. So it's easier for version control.
That's cool.
That's the part missing, like converting the
Mhm.
canvas graphic object to a JSON string format. After we achieve that, we can release a first, hopefully stable version, but whatever. It's gonna be version 0.0.1, so no one expects stability of usability whatsoever. But
Sure. Yeah. And is it going to be on the elementary store? Is that where you're going to be playing it?
yes, we're gonna release it on the elementary OS. We already have a Flatpak generator automatic that whenever we create a release, automatically generates the Flatpak, and we will upload this on FlatHub. So every Linux distribution ever can install it through FlatHub.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we also have a Snap package script that generates that, but it's a bit outdated, and none of us know how to use how to work with snaps. So we'll seek some help and guidance from someone else. But yeah, the purpose is to release it every time there's a new release. Just push it at the same time on every platform, on every distribution. We don't want to just make it available only on a single marketplace or whatever.
Yeah, that's really cool. I can't wait.
Yeah. It's happening. So excited. I'm gonna send you some stickers as soon as we launch it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's awesome.
So what, like, I see in the notes here that you're preparing a new tutorial series for your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I have not really made a video in a long time. I think the last one I did was just a one-off Fitbit video. But yeah, I recorded 3 episodes for the series yesterday, and it's going to be an introduction to C# and ASP.NET.
Wow.
So in this tutorial, it's just going to be building a RESTful API. Pretty basic. I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible to learn the language and the basics of the framework. I think I'll do another series after that on ASP.NET MVC, which follows more of a similar pattern to Laravel, where you use razor pages instead of blade to grab like your data from your controllers and that are in C# and put them on your HTML. So I think I'm also going to continue this API series in an Angular series and build an Angular 7 or 8, whatever version is out by that point. On top of it to make a front end for the API. So,
wow.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun recording yesterday. It's the first time I've done it in a long time. And I think it's going to be a really cool series.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it. This is like every time I see tutorials from that level, like C#, .NET, or even C++, something like really more complex than just PHP or JavaScript. They're really boring and really long, like tutorials of 2 hours. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and I think that like the .NET community, it's so different than like the open source community. And I think it's starting to change with Microsoft open sourcing the .NET to .NET Core. But in the past, it's always been, big corporations use .NET and it's very closed source. And, there weren't really, there were some .NET meetup groups and stuff, but it was just nobody really contributed to things. A lot of my coworkers in these shops were, they were the 9-to-5 developer. I'm going to go home and that's it. I'm not going to learn anything. I'm not going to play around with anything.
That's true.
So I think it's just kind of like a very different just culture between .NET and a lot of other frameworks. So, so yeah, I'm hoping that this tutorial series is good and informative and not boring.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will leave you a comment below. It's like, oh, this is boring. Nah. Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, really looking forward to it. Actually, like, I have no idea. I know nothing about those topics, so I'm gonna be your guinea pig. I'm gonna tell you if I can actually understand it. I tried in the past to learn .NET and C#, and no, like, it was too difficult for me, so I gave up.
I think one of the problems with C# is anytime you look up a tutorial or a problem you're having, everybody has like 10 different ways to solve it. So you're kind of left with just kind of guessing which way you should do it and stuff. So in this series, we're just jumping right into building a RESTful API. So I'm not even really starting with like the basics of C#, because I think as long as you just understand object-oriented principles, it's a pretty easy language to pick up.
Okay. Good stuff, man. I'm really looking forward for your being back on YouTube. We missed you.
I think I'll release the first 2 episodes probably later this week, maybe Thursday.
Nice.
And hopefully get a couple more in the queue, so I can kind of release them every few days as opposed to like, here's an episode, and then I'm like, oh, I don't have time to work on this.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, I know.
That always happens to me.
Yeah, it's terrible. Okay, so let's jump on the news. Of course, there have been millions of different news in the past 2 months, but we cannot tackle them all. We just group all the more recent news that are related to web development, which are really interesting, and just like a small bits and pieces that we found. The first one that I was really shocked by this, but then it kind of like makes sense, is the availability on Chrome version 75 that is going to be released probably in the next month of the built-in image lazy loading. just a native. You simply, in the image tag in your markup HTML, you just write loading equal, and you can specify auto, eager, or lazy, and that's it. It works out of the box. You don't need to include anything. You don't need to include all these script like JavaScript or external libraries to have lazy loading. And I was shocked because I'm like, oh, yes, okay, everyone uses lazy loading. Like the entire web is basically lazy loading. But the fact that Chrome is doing these, like what's going to happen is other browsers will catch up to this, and also Firefox or Edge. Well, Edge probably is based on Chromium now, so it's going to have it, but they're going to implement it, or we're going to be forced to have a condition, like if the browser supports the lazy loading, don't load the JavaScript, or if it doesn't load the external libraries. Does these makes things easier or makes them more complicated?
Yeah, I really hope that other browsers do implement this in some way. Because it's like, I mean, the web's been around for, it's what, 25 plus years. It's like, why is it taking us so long to get to this point?
Yeah.
I feel like this is something that browsers should just handle on their own. Like, oh, it's not in the viewport, don't load it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really hope that other browsers, pick it up really soon, because it's going to be a pain to have to be like, oh, well, this part works on Chrome, and then like you said, we're going to have to pull in another JavaScript library, and it's like, I kind of see this movement of, a lot more people are using just vanilla JS instead of jQuery, and if we can have more in just HTML that is native to the browsers, it really makes everything a lot lighter and a lot easier to develop.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with you that browsers should handle more of these things, like more regular and simple things. So yeah, that's a really interesting addition, and hopefully it's not gonna be just like limited to Chrome. Definitely.
Yeah.
Next bit of news. Do you wanna talk about this?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So Laraberg, which is a project that brings Gutenberg to Laravel. Yeah, so I don't know. I still feel like, Gutenberg on WordPress isn't even like ready, I think.
Yes.
And now everybody's trying to implement it in all these other places. And, I do like, from writing a blog standpoint, the Gutenberg editor.
Yeah.
There's some bugs here and there, but it's a nice UI and everything. But I don't know. It's such a mess for the developer, and to be putting it into Laravel, and I'm seeing like JavaScript libraries for it. It's just like, let's just slow down, and like, can we come up with something better?
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess like everyone is jumping and implementing Gutenberg. Also, the Drupal community is porting the Gutenberg project to it, because they kind of like, it's made by WordPress, so it's gonna be around for many, many years. So we can implement it. We're kind of safe from the point of view. Yeah, but I agree with you. Like, it doesn't feel ready. It doesn't feel stable from a development point of view on WordPress itself. So why implement it somewhere else? I'm curious also, this implementation, how is gonna handle saving the blocks in the Laravel database, because with the WordPress implementation of Gutenberg, we have this limitation that it saves as a string, as like converted HTML. So you have a sort of like built-in server-side loading of your JavaScript blocks, but then it's totally static. The beauty of a Laravel project is that you can have a front end fully built in React or Vue.js and have dynamic and maintain the reactivity, and also have server-side rendering. So like, what's the point of these implementations? Just to have a nice backend to write things?
Maybe.
I guess so.
Because there are some, just like old style WYSIWYG editors that you can, just the front end part of it that saves it as just HTML, and you print it out later. So I don't know if it's just that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But since they're saying it's for Laravel, it makes me think that it's going to be more of like a PHP package. So
I hope so.
I don't know how it's going to work. I didn't look at. I don't know if the code is open source. I didn't actually look into the code and how they're handling it. But yeah, I don't know. Not a fan of Gutenberg in terms of development. So.
Yeah, not at all. It's just there's a quote here from the CTO of this project. Like if Gutenberg Cloud can serve as a proof of concept that WP.org can later adopt as their own, we are happy. So they're pointing to the fact that Gutenberg is evolving to be a standalone framework and CMS agnostic. I don't know. Already that to register one single block, you have to write it and register 3 functions in 3 different places. It doesn't
Right.
feel promising, but yeah.
And then you got to register the JavaScript that you then want to import in your JavaScript, and it's like, oh, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's okay. Maybe we should focus to something else, but whatever, it's fine. Moving on, there's we know that Google, like the tagline of Google, "Don't be evil," doesn't apply anymore and hasn't been applied anymore for years and years now, unfortunately. But there's an interesting article from the former Mozilla general manager. His name is Jonathan Nightingale. That he's stating that he has proof also that Google sabotaged Firefox to boost Chrome. And this is kind of like an old news. It's kind of like general knowledge that a website, especially if it's a website made by Google, works better on Chrome than on Firefox or Edge. But we never had like a list of technical reasons. Hey, this is what Google is actually doing to damage the other browsers. We always thought about, it's an in-house website, so it's optimized for this. It's normal. It's something that they built on top of their own browser, so it works better. But the article is really interesting because it tackles also the partnership that Firefox had with Google and Mozilla had with Google. So Mozilla had this partnership where they could use the search engine on the first page of Firefox when you open a first page, and directly since like immediately from the first page already some bugs were happening once every 2 weeks or something. They had a partnership on a specific tool on a specific page and they were having technical problems, and they were of course contacting the Google team, like the Chrome team, and the Chrome team was like answering like, hey, oops, sorry, there was an accident, we'll fix it in the next couple of weeks. It gives an example on the YouTube page load. The YouTube page load, it takes 5 times more in Firefox on Edge than in Chrome, because YouTube Polymer's redesign relies on deprecated shadow DOM API that would be implemented just in Chrome. And then they found out that sometimes the team adds random divs, especially like on YouTube. There's an empty blank div that it doesn't like, has no purpose. It's just there because it created issues for Edge and Firefox that they had to really super quickly patches in order to avoid these empty blank div covering the entire page. So all this kind of like weird stuff that this guy of course says, I don't believe that the development team of Google Chrome is that not capable of understanding this thing. Like it feels like something that it's done on purpose.
Oh yeah, I mean the developers at Google are some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't know, it's crazy. And I mean it's like, it is a competition. I understand them wanting to make it, better on their device, but at the same time, like, why not do that in the terms of the JavaScript engine? Like, oh, your JavaScript engine is already faster than Firefox, that should be enough.
Yeah.
But then, of course, Firefox came out with like Quantum or whatever it was called. So I don't know, it's sketchy.
It is pretty sketchy indeed. I agree with you. Like competition, it's fine, but competition should be that you optimize your own tools to make them perform better than the competition. It's not that you slow down on purpose the to damage other. Like it's even shitty for users. It's not just to like to I don't know, compete with.
Oh yeah, I mean, what's it? Amazon Prime actually is an example that this drives me crazy because so we do have Amazon Prime, and with Amazon Prime you get streaming. So at home we have a Chromecast which works with like any other streaming app like Hulu or YouTube or Netflix, but because Amazon also sells the Fire Sticks, they will not allow they don't have a Chromecast ability on the Prime app.
Oh,
And on top of that, one thing that Google does with Chromecast is you can go to a website and you can cast your screen, you can cast the browser to your TV.
yeah.
If you try to do it on an Amazon Prime streaming video, it somehow knows and it will cut your video off and it'll
Oh,
say this is unavailable.
oh my God.
And I'm like, I'm already paying for Prime service.
Yeah.
And now you're going to make me get a Fire Stick just so I can stream this to my TV?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like,
It's everything. It's okay to make more money.
yeah. Mhm.
Destroy competition no matter what. Yeah, it's just insane. It doesn't make it's the web. It should be open, especially for these silly things. Like you're
Mhm.
already paying for a service, and you should be able to use it whatever. It's stuff that you
Mhm.
paid, and you
Yeah.
it's a subscription, so you don't own anything technically, but
Right. Yeah, exactly.
they can do whatever they want. Oh my God. Yeah, but it's insane. We'll see. And this is kind of like connected to the next news,
Mhm.
which we will see what's gonna happen with the new version of Microsoft Edge that it's based on
Yeah.
Chromium.
So I've downloaded the beta, and I mean, it just feels like another Chrome, but like so I was really kind of excited about this because there are some things on Microsoft Edge that I really like.
Hmm.
As a browser, it's a little bit slow, but when you're using it on a Microsoft like a laptop that's running Windows, it does use less battery because you're not got all these plugins and
Yeah.
everything, and it matches well with the OS.
Hmm.
And there's a couple features there that I really liked, and one was the ability to like if you had a bunch of tabs open to like stash them into this little drawer you can't see.
Hmm.
So you can kind of like, oh, I'm gonna stash all these tabs. I'm gonna come back to them later. I don't really want to close them. I just want to clean up my UI.
Hmm.
And there was another feature that allowed you, and I'm sure there's a Chrome plugin for this. You click it, and it allows you to draw on a website, and then you can save that entire website as an image. So,
Oh.
if you're working with somebody, and you're like, oh, you know what, like looking at it like a development version of site. I want to circle this. I'm going to move this over here. Let's change these colors, and you're drawing on it.
Hmm.
There's like a really cool feature for that. So when I downloaded the Edge Chromium, I thought they were just going to take Chromium and kind of add their own features like that in there. And unless they're going to do it in the future, there's none of that right now.
Hmm.
So it just feels like a very bare bones Chrome browser. Um,
With a skin on top
so
to make it look like
yeah,
Edge.
yeah, but it still didn't even really look that much like the
Ah.
Edge version. So I don't know. I was not very happy with it. I'm sure they're just gonna have downloads just because it's gonna be like, oh, this is Microsoft's browser, so when you install Windows 10, you get it, and like,
Hmm.
I don't know how they're gonna continue saying how much better it is than Chrome because that's what you would always see
Yeah.
whenever you would load Windows 10, you'd try to install Chrome, it'd be like, oh, Microsoft Edge does better on battery life, and it
Yeah.
does, but it's like, what are they going to say now if you try to download Chrome? Like, oh, you're installing another browser that's the same thing but better. Like,
Yeah, and also I'm curious to see how Google is going to react with that because in the article it stated that the
hmm
developers at Microsoft are working directly with a team at Google to
hmm
expand and build on top of Chromium. But like, will Google adopt the same technique that it adopted with Mozilla Firefox, so like damaging Chromium in order for
right.
users to switch to Chrome? Or yeah, where's the selling argument here? If both browsers
hmm
are basically identical, it's just like a visual skin. Like what's the selling point? Maybe Microsoft could say, "Oh, we optimized this version of Chrome for Windows" or something like
hmm
that. But it's still
Yeah.
like it's a stretch because it's the same browser.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. I was not impressed with the beta.
Yeah, they're contributing to the Chromium project anyway. Like there are 150 commits accepted into Chromium, which yeah, I guess Microsoft developers they can improve the open source
hmm
Chromium version, but yeah, I don't know. I just switched totally to Firefox, so I don't care about this anymore.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth. I'm using Firefox on my phone,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of going back and forth on my computer. So I guess
Yeah.
that's just a bit to get used to because I was on Chrome for so long.
Oh yeah, exactly. Still, I have issues with Netflix. Netflix is still a bit clunky sometimes of Firefox, which is annoying. So I have Chrome just to watch Netflix. Yeah.
Did you change the name of the application icon to Netflix? Have it
Uh,
automatically open the Netflix site?
I could do that. That's
Yeah.
a really so I know that it's just for Netflix.
Yeah.
An entire browser just for Netflix. Yeah, I could definitely do that. That's a really good suggestion.
I even changed the icon to the Netflix icon.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't get confused using another browser. Okay, these are all the news that we wanted to talk to you about, guys, over this little episode. Now we can jump directly to our main topic, which is related to something that happened in our life pretty much at the same time, which is kind of crazy. But we both changed job. I've been hired as the lead UX architect at Thunderbird, the Mozilla Thunderbird email client. And you, Chris, what happened to you?
I took a job as the lead software engineer at Emory University here in Atlanta.
Oh,
So yeah, about the
sweet.
same time.
Yeah, exactly. Like a couple of weeks apart.
Yeah, because I remember you messaged me saying that you were interviewing at Mozilla, and I was like, man, I was just talking to somebody at Emory.
Oh my God. Yeah, so we want to go through this process, which of course, every time we like, it doesn't matter your level of experience or for how many years you've been into this industry, every time you change job, it's a hustle. Like you have to almost start from scratch, especially in human interaction, and the interviewing process is always weird because it's not unified. Everyone has his own idea of how interviewing should go. So let's dive into it, and hopefully all this information will be helpful for anyone that is listening. But you want to start out talking about your interviewing process, because I personally never worked for a university as a lead developer. How
Yeah,
it is?
this is my first time. The interview process there was, pretty straightforward. We had one technical interview with the director of information technology, and then a project manager who has a lot of software development experience, and then another guy who I'm working with currently, and he's a consultant working at another company for Emory, as he was like the only developer on this project. So the way they worked is they were like, oh, we've got an idea for a new project, but we don't have any employees, so they just kind of outsourced everything to these consultants.
Oh yeah.
And then once they got traction, then they started hiring full-time employees. So kind of jumping on like at the end of phase one.
Yeah.
So I had a technical interview with them for about an hour, talking about experience, and it wasn't that difficult really. It was more like big picture stuff. And then I had a second interview a couple weeks later, and that was more of like I guess more of just like a general interview. It was with the woman who is in charge of the entire project that we're working on. It's a big project. We're actually even sponsoring our own conference next month.
No way.
It's a 2-day conference. Yeah. So I'm going to it. It's really mostly for like physicians and nurses. So I have no idea what they're going to be talking about. But yeah, I'm spending 2 days there. And then the guy above her was also there.
And in the technical interview, did you have any coding challenge? Like specifically, they ask you to look at some code or to write something, or it was like a more generic technical interview?
So not for Emory. I was simultaneously interviewing with a few other companies, and the other ones all sent me these code challenges, and they were like the first one I did. I was like, this is kind of fun. It kind of reminded me of the challenges they had at Laracon last year, where they're just like puzzles and you got to figure it out. But I had one for a PHP position, and it was a nightmare.
Really?
It was horrible. So I got an email, and they're like, all right, schedule, sit down when you have like an hour free because it's a time test. And they're like, we're going to have 6 questions for you. Each one has a different amount of time that you have to solve it. I was like, okay, fine. And then they said like, everything on here is going to be, I think they said PHP 5.6.
Okay.
I don't think it was 7, but it was at least somewhat modern, somewhat new. So I was like, all right, sure, no problem. We'll see what they got, I open up the first question, and it's like the first one only had 10 minutes. And it was like it had a class with a constructor in it, and you had to like solve a problem, add a couple methods in it or whatever. But I was looking at it, and I was so confused by the code. And the constructor looked really weird. It didn't look like the constructors I've ever seen in PHP.
Really?
Um, and so like I was playing with the editor and I kept telling me my code was wrong and it wasn't correct. And I was like, what is going on? And I ran out of time. I didn't even finish it. And it jumped me right into the next one. And I still had more problems with that one. And so after I finished this hour-long thing where I got like, I don't know, 2 or 3 of these questions out of the 6 right,
Mm-hmm.
I started Googling and found out that the way that they were doing constructors were the way they did it in PHP 3.
What?
Yeah. So I was like, well, no wonder like I'm pasting this stuff in a PHP storm and it's like, I don't know what you're doing. Like
It's
this is all wrong.
screaming at you. Yeah.
Like trying to like solve this. I'm frantically, typing at my keyboard because I've got this stupid little timer that's counting down. It even talks to you. It's like, you have 2 minutes remaining. I'm like, no, like, give me more time. And I don't know why, but it's like even after I completely failed that, they still brought me on site for a in-person technical interview. And I was just like, what in the world is this? This is terrible.
Did
Like
you
it was
ask
the
them? Did you ask them why did you send me a PHP 3 constructor?
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, it's just something we send to everybody. We haven't even really looked at it." I'm like, "Well, you need
What?
to. Like, it's
Seriously?
horrible." Like,
Oh my god.
yeah, that was like the most stressful hour of my life is just trying to look at this code that I'm like, this is not legit PHP code. I don't understand what this is. Um, so yeah, those were I think the only 2 places that sent me code challenges was the one that was actually enjoyable and I was like, sure, this is fun, and then this one that was just a complete nightmare.
Oh my god.
Did
Oh.
you have any challenges at Mozilla, or was it more of just interviews?
Yeah, that was most interviews because it's interesting how my process in Mozilla went in, especially interviewing stuff. Like I had first sort of like introduction conversation with one a member of the council, but even this introduction like little chat was already super awkward because it started with, no, we know you, we know what you do, and just we want to hire you. That's it.
Hmm.
And this is all because of all the open source projects that I've been doing, all the YouTube videos and all the things that I've been
Hmm.
releasing. So they already knew me. They already, quote unquote, knew my personality for how I present myself online. And they knew the code. So my technical interview was really, please send us code that is not in your GitHub repository if you have something else. Otherwise, we're going to just check your GitHub repository if you want to highlight some projects that you feel more comfortable for us highlighting, like
Nice.
more modern stuff. But other than that, it was really, they asked me during the technical interview, it was with the lead developer of Thunderbird and then the lead developer of the build system. They have a really complex build system
Mm.
that it's tied to Mozilla. So there was also that guy taking care of that. And they asked me just a couple of really generic questions like, what do you do if your code is working and then a couple of days after your code is not working anymore?
Mhm.
And my answer is like, I check the commits. And it was like, yes, good answer. Next question. It was like
Yeah.
really like this, really like high level, not really technical. It was like generic behavior of a
Mhm.
developer. And yeah, I kept thinking about this, and it's the first time in my entire life that I never had to do a technical interview or I never had to explain or
Mhm.
like answer to those stupid questions like, what's your
Mhm.
level of
Yeah.
PHP? Like, how comfortable do you feel with JavaScript? Like, what kind of, like,
Yeah.
how am I supposed to answer this? Like, I'm really good. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, having my source code available, it was wonderful. Like I didn't have to explain anything, and they saw what I was able to do, how I wrote the code, how clean my code is, and all this kind of stuff. So it was a really particular technical interview because I never had something like that. And from this point of view, a lot of people, especially non-technical developers or like developers that are not in the open source environment, they always
Mhm.
tell me why you keep releasing all your stuff for free. It's such a waste
Yeah.
of time. Like you spend a lot of time in this and then you put it for free. You should sell it, or you should keep it secret, and you should just apply for a higher paid job and stuff like that. But it paid off.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that that also speaks towards like if you're interviewing for like a junior position, I think those interviews from the interviewer standpoint can be more difficult because unless they just have a bunch of projects and they just haven't had a job yet,
Yeah.
it's really hard to gauge how technical somebody is by just talking to them. And it's like, oh, you know what an interface is? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Like, well, that doesn't really
Yeah.
doesn't really mean much when terms comes to actually building a project. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So yeah, if you're a junior looking for a job, definitely try, even if you just have like one or two projects to put out there, just so that it'll make the technical interview a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like a suggestion I want to give for non-native English speakers, like if you're like me, you move from another country to an English speaking country and you're applying for
Mhm.
a job. A lot of issues that I have in the past when interviews were literally like language related. I didn't know that an interface was called an interface. I didn't know that the tilde symbol was called tilde because in Italian
Yeah.
is different. Like all these like small things that they throw you off. I was able to overcome those by saying, I'm sorry, I'm not really comfortable with English, but take a look at my source code. Oh, a
Mhm.
constructor. Yes, I know what's a constructor. I don't know how to explain a constructor or a scope variable or like a scope
Right.
method or a prototype in English. I don't know how to explain it. But look, I built it. It's here. My code will speak for me, which was really helpful. So definitely, yes, just have fun in doing some open source project and putting your source code out there. Even if it's not
Yeah.
perfect, will help you definitely.
Did you by chance work with any recruiters?
Uh, Only
Or
once.
you said they just kind of came to you for
Yeah, not
Mozilla, right?
for this role, but when I moved here in Canada, yes, I met with a recruiter, but it didn't work out actually. It was
Mhm.
offering me a lot of positions that weren't in my realm of knowledge, and it was crazy. Like when I had the interview with the recruiter, he looked at my resume and started changing my resume to bump it a little bit to like
Yeah.
I didn't feel comfortable with that, so I stopped using it. And did you use a recruiter?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did not get the position through Emory through a recruiter. I
Mm-hmm.
just that one I actually had found online over Christmas break because I was so jealous of my wife getting like a full week off at Christmas, and I was like, I want to see if they have any jobs, because I haven't like applied there.
That's your
But
main
yeah,
reason of changing jobs, like
yeah,
vacations. Yeah, that's a good reason, man.
yeah. But yeah, so I did work with a recruiter for some of the other interviews, and when I got the offer from Emory, I had a competing offer from another company that my recruiter got me in with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know they get paid when I take the job that they have led me to. So he
Yes.
was really pushing me to take the other job, and the other job paid a little bit more, but they would require me to be in the office for 2 full days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And the office was on the other side of Atlanta. So it was going to be like an hour drive there in the morning, an hour drive
Oh.
home. And I just was not thrilled with their technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I was like, one of the things I'm really looking for in a new job is getting into newer technology. And this company, they had told me like, oh, in the future, we want you to be like the lead UI guy and lead up our front end development. But at the time, they were doing all just PHP with
Mm-hmm.
some jQuery, and I was just like, I really want to get into like Vue.js or like anything more modern in a front end framework. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, I can't promise when that's going to happen. And so I was just like, I can't drive that far for it if I'm not going to be getting into newer technology.
Yeah.
Um, but he was really pushing me for it. And then, like just like a week ago, he called me again, and I've been at Emory for about 4 weeks at this point, and he's like, "Hey, they still want you over there, and they're offering you an extra like $10,000." Like, no, like I don't want to work there.
Oh
I
my
was like,
god.
that's nice, but um, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
they can be quite pushy when they're salesmen in a way. They
Yeah,
they sell
exactly.
you to companies, and then they
Mm-hmm.
try to push you. They try to sell the company to you, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, they've got great benefits, and they have such an awesome, like
Mm-hmm.
work area. And it's like, well, I have an awesome work area at my house where I can just not drive.
Yeah, my
So
commute is 20 seconds. So
yeah.
that's the thing. Have you, I don't know like how it works in the United States, but are recruiters supposed to know the technology that you're getting hired or like that are helping you
Nope.
to find a job? That's the thing, right? Even in Canada here, like the guy that I spoke with, he had no idea what PHP was. And
Yeah.
like he literally during the interview asked me, well, I have a lot of roles for Java senior developer. Would you be able to do that? I'm like, no. Like,
Yeah.
Java is not
I
even written in my resume. Like, what?
Yes, I've gotten those on LinkedIn saying like, oh, you'd be a great senior job or senior Python developer. I'm like, okay, I did Python for like a year back in 2010.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be a senior Python developer. Or like I've talked to people and I tell them like, oh yeah, I worked in .NET for, 5 years. They're like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, all right. And they're like, well, have you ever done C Sharp? I'm like, oh, that's pretty much what .NET is. Like,
Hmm.
it's like the main language of it. So yes, and then like, oh, okay, or I tell them something like, I my least favorite thing to work on is database. Like
Hmm.
I don't really like writing SQL queries.
Yeah.
I just not interested in it. They're like, okay, well, what about what about Oracle? I'm like, that's a database. Like,
It's amazing. Like, why these companies still trust recruiters that are not
yeah,
technically savvy to understand what they need. It's yeah, it's funny, but it's even really stupid.
yeah.
but whatever. So we got hired both, and we
Mhm.
found the job that we like and we love. Are you satisfied? Yeah, are you happy?
Yeah, I'm real
Hmm.
happy. It's been a whirlwind of information thrown at me, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it has been for you too.
My God. Yeah, I'm still getting shaked every time, like slapped in the face by a
Mhm.
new thing. I still haven't like scratched the surface of how big that software is. But
Yeah.
yeah, so pretty much everyone, it doesn't matter if you're junior, medium level, senior, like things change, of course, when you step into a new role, especially if you're a senior, you have different responsibility and you have to learn different things. But
Mhm.
everyone goes through the same process. And at the beginning, it's all like, it's really confusing and disorienting. And you literally need to relearn and restart from scratch, especially from a
Mhm.
human interaction point of view, which is the most complicated for me. But let's try to identify all the steps that are necessary in order to get settled into a new job. First of all, I wrote in the list like find your space. That could be related to like physically find your space, like find if you have to go to an office, you need to
Mhm.
get comfortable in your new desk and in the office. But it's more generic in the fact you need to understand where you are and what you can do, how much power, quote unquote, you have, like decision
Mhm.
power, and how much you can ask or demand or get asked about your job day to day, which is really tricky at the beginning.
It is. Yeah, this is the first time I've been in a position where there's no one between me and like leadership.
Ooh.
So I have a one-on-one meeting with our director once a week, and he'll ask me, he's like, do you need any software? Do you need anything? We'll buy it. And he's like kind of he manages like 20 different projects. So he really told me, he's like, I want you to tell me what you need and we'll get it done. Like, so it's a really weird dynamic that I'm not used to,
Yeah.
because I'm not used to telling people like, this is what I think we should do, and then we do it. It's always been, I've always had somebody else that's been, here's what we're going to do, here's what the project's going to be, and
Hmm.
it's more of me actually kind of making decisions.
Hmm.
Um, so it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's related to finding your space because you need to understand like how much can you push it. Like if you have an
Mhm.
idea or you need a software, you need a tool, you need to understand like I don't know, I feel uncomfortable because I just started and do I really need these? Am I gonna ask for these, or maybe I can find a cheaper solution or a solution that doesn't require any change, stuff like that. It's always like tricky to find the balance of
Mhm.
what you can ask, or yeah, like, and from that point of view, it's also related in finding your space on how to interact with the new team,
Mhm.
because you don't want to be like a bomb that drops from the sky and is like, okay, now we're gonna do as I say, we're gonna change
Right.
everything. Your workflow
Yeah.
is shit. We're gonna make it new.
Yeah. So I've had managers do that all the time in past jobs where it's like,
Yes.
oh, we've got a new senior developer, we've got a new manager, and then they just change everything. At one position, we were doing like very agile style, and then somebody came in and they're like, no more sprints. We're like, what? Why? No, they're not effective. I'm like, We've been really effective for a
Yeah.
year, and now you've shown up.
It's a really personal thing, and it's also, this part is tricky because
Mhm.
as a personal experience when I was junior and a new manager was stepping in, if the new manager was like, okay, we're going to change this, we're going to optimize this, we're going to have a new workflow because it's better, I was kind of like, yes, this is annoying because we need to relearn something, but
Mhm.
I kind of like, I had a respect, like a sort of like immediate respect for this person because he knew what he wanted to. And oh, this is a manager because he knows what he wants to do. He's in charge and
Mhm.
he has clear ideas. Instead, I had experience with a new manager, a new lead developer that was like, oh yeah, no, I don't want to disrupt your environment. We're going to follow these and then we're going to slowly, but you let me know what you think. Like it wasn't, I had the feeling that he wasn't really comfortable in the role of managing and
Yeah.
making decisions. So I had less respect for him and I was feeling like, okay, I can do what I want because I know more than him, especially in this role. I
Mhm.
know more than he does. So it's really, it's a weird balance of showing that you're in charge in a like senior role but
Mhm.
not being a dick, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
How was your interaction with the new team?
So this is the first time I've been in a position where I'm not in like a development shop, like with other developers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me, and like when I'm in the office, I'm sitting next to the lady that does the marketing. And just the other day, she was showing me some print design that she wanted my feedback on, and
Huh.
so I'm like I've never done this before. And then like the other lady sits on like on the other side of my cube, like she's in like a public health relations, and she's talking to the different hospitals and
Yeah.
stuff. And so it's really weird being the only developer there.
Yeah.
We have plans later on down the road, probably hiring like a junior or mid-level, but
Mm-hmm.
for right now it's just me. So my code reviews are done by the consultant who doesn't even work there. So they're
Right.
all, it's all just online. I'll never even talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's yeah, it's just and it is weird kind of figuring out where I am in the organization because everybody's kind of like a manager over something or a lead, but it's like, well, which one of us is over the other one? It's like
Yeah.
it's really weird dynamic, and it's been hard to figure out. And they've been switching from all these these outsourced companies to hiring. So it's like every time I go in the office, because I only go in about once or twice a week,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a new person there, and they're like, oh, we
Right.
just hired this person. And it's like, oh man, like I'm now one of the senior people here because there's been like 6 people hired after me.
Senior people with 4 weeks of experience.
Yeah,
That's great.
exactly. Because they'll ask me like, oh, well, how do you do blah blah blah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Or
I'm
like
still learning.
the FedEx guy will knock on the door and he's like, where is this person? I'm like, I don't know. You can walk around trying to find him.
Oh my God. Yeah, I know. I've been in that situation where I was the only developer. Yeah, it's kind of weird, especially taking like making decisions, like
Mhm.
coding decisions. You need sometimes someone to just, even if they're juniors, less experience,
Mhm.
or you're a junior and you're talking with a senior, even if it's not working on your same thing, you need someone to talk out loud your ideas and bounce ideas off. And even if they don't give suggestions, maybe you get better ideas just because you're talking about them. And
Yeah, because
yeah,
a lot of times in these positions where, and if, unless you're working for like a shop that's like turning out websites for clients and stuff, your projects last several years.
yeah, exactly.
So it's like if you choose like a product that, let's say you jumped on the Vue bandwagon really
Mm-hmm.
early,
Yeah,
and let's say Vue did not turn out to be as popular and great as it is, then
yeah,
you've got to rewrite your system in something else because Vue is no longer being maintained.
yeah.
Um, so it's yeah, that is a scary part is thinking, well, what's gonna last the next 5 years,
Hmm. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, those are like absolutely real problems that everyone has, especially in a senior role position. My experience, personal experience on interacting with this new team, it's completely different from anything that I experienced before because, like, the biggest company I worked for back in Italy, we were like 5 developers.
Mhm.
Now, like, Mozilla has hundreds of developers, the
Yeah.
Thunderbird team has 12 developers, and it's growing to 17. and they're all around the world, majority in Europe, some in Australia, New Zealand, some in the United States. So it's all like really remote and kind of like disconnected, but it has to
Mhm.
be tightly connected from a code point of view. So as soon as I started, it was really weird because I had a couple of tasks just to get used to the source code. So I
Mhm.
started fixing some small bugs, and then my bug was getting reviewed by a guy, by like the one in charge of the coding review, and it was getting approved. Then it was patched and implemented in the source code by another one, then shipped and scheduled for and the next stable version release of Thunderbird by another guy. So for the first literally 4 months, I was learning the nicknames or like the user account names of all the people that I was interacting with just
Mhm.
from the code-based workflow of reviewing, getting approved, and getting shipped. And Mozilla as a communication system uses still like IRC,
Mhm.
and I couldn't reconcile which person I was talking to, like who's the account, who's this guy that is approving my reviews, and who's the same guy in the IRC channel because the nicknames were different. So
Mm.
it's still like it feels really disconnected because yes, now I know that I can go to user 123 that is in charge of the macOS version, and if I have an issue on macOS, I can talk to him. But
Mhm.
I don't know what's his name, what's his stack, like what's his skill level, what's his role, like who is he? He's a project manager, he's another developer, I don't know. So it's really optimized from a point of view, but it's really weird because everything it's remote and everyone's working on their own
Right.
things from another point of view.
Mhm.
Now it's been like a couple of months and I'm starting to associate real names with usernames finally, and it's getting more comfortable. But yeah, it's a weird experience being completely remote
Yeah.
and doing everything with a sort of like automatic workflow of everything through different tools, and it
Mhm.
was it was really interesting. A bit, I would say, better from anxiety point of view because okay, you mess something up and you don't have a face-to-face review of someone that says, oh, this is wrong,
Yeah.
why you did this is like why you wrote something this stupid. Like sometimes I did it, I wrote something really stupid, but from the other point of view is kind of like it would be better to have someone close by that you can just ask a simple question and that's
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
Instead, especially from the other part of the world, like sometimes I write an email with a bunch of questions and I wait an entire day for an answer. Then I get
Right.
the answer and it's not what I was looking for. So I write another answer. I need to wait another day.
Mm.
It feels a little bit disconnected, but I'm getting used to it. Yes.
Yeah, because I worked fully remote for the last 4 years, but my teams were always in Eastern and Central time in the US. So
Yeah.
there was only ever like a 1 hour difference. So I've never had to experience, waiting for somebody who is, 12-hour difference
Yeah.
away. And
Yeah, I think sometimes on IRC it's 5 p.m. and I'm ready to shut down things and I
Mhm.
submitted my last patch and then people show up online. Hey, good morning, everyone. I was like, what? Okay. And they start asking you questions like, why this patch is like that? Do I have to ship this? Do I have to fix this? Like, it's 6 p.m. I have to go. I can't answer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like that. What about, and these you can like mostly relate to this because you
Mhm.
basically completely changed stack from your previous job. Before it was PHP, Laravel,
Yeah.
and JavaScript.
Mhm.
Now it's C Sharp and ASP.NET, right? So how do you
Yeah.
get used to this type of drastic stack change?
So I really enjoy changing. I get bored pretty easily with one thing. So I always like to, play with new frameworks and languages and just kind of do it just for fun. So
Yeah.
um, it was definitely a big change jumping into it, like, 8 hours a day doing it. Um, and also my work computer now is a Mac. They gave me a MacBook Pro, which
Oh,
um, yeah, just the keyboard alone I'm still struggling with that
it's a
because
terrible, right? Is that one of the
yeah,
recent, like super flat?
Yes, it's one of the newer. I think it's a 2018 MacBook Pro.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's like I don't like the touch bar. It's got a few nice features for like quickly changing volume or screen brightness, but other than that, like I miss my escape key and my F keys.
Yes.
Um, Having the whole like function key and then like the control and the option and then the command, and it's the muscle memory is just completely different. So
Yeah.
getting used to that has been difficult. So at home, I realized that I can do all my development on my own machines.
Hmm.
So I'm running Elementary OS with a regular keyboard, and I'm
Nice.
enjoying that. And then when I'm in the office, I on my MacBook with an external monitor, and it's okay for the day and a half I'm there a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, jumping back into C sharp, it's been a while since I've done it. So I was like, oh, it'll be like, I've never even left because it's been about 2 years since I've done development.
Hmm.
But man, 2 years, things change a lot.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's been a bit interesting to see what's changed in 2 years and just be thrown into it. The other thing I'm trying to learn is AWS because I've never worked with AWS before.
Hmm.
So this week we're actually, since we're getting close to launching our product for the first time, we're actually going to be building out our production environment on AWS. So that's going to
Nice.
be a huge learning experience for that.
Yeah, no, feel free to ask any question if you need that because I did it at Ritual managing
Okay.
AWS.
Oh,
And I
great.
did also, there are a lot of like free courses online for AWS, like free certifications, something like that. You can definitely do that.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
I'll check that out.
yeah, those are great actually. And AWS is like this is a monolith. It's massive. Like
Yes. Yeah, it's like
Jesus.
you go to like, oh, select a feature, and this big mega menu opens up with like 40 things to go to, and it's like, I
Yeah.
don't need, I just want to create a database.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, no, it's really complicated at the beginning. It feels like hyper
Mhm.
convoluted. From my point of view, I feel kind of like the opposite. Now I'm scared that I'm gonna forget Laravel because I've been
Mm.
working with Laravel for 3 years straight, and now I
Mhm.
switched to Thunderbird. That is C and JavaScript. The front end it's built on JavaScript and custom elements and vanilla JavaScript mostly, ES6. And then the backend it's mostly C, but we don't touch that much because it's pretty stable and managed by Mozilla.
Mhm.
And I'm not doing Laravel anymore. And that was
Right.
it. It feels kind of a shock because yeah, I'm afraid like especially the development of Laravel, it's so fast and it changes so
Mhm.
drastically. Every like Taylor Otwell never stops in releasing new things. I'm
Yeah.
terrified that in a year or two I will not know how to code in Laravel anymore. Like, oh damn.
Yeah, I still try to keep up with it like on Twitter. I'm really interested to see what comes out of the Laracon this year.
Hmm.
I'm sad I'm missing it because I want to know what this Steam thing is
Oh
that
yeah.
Taylor keep teasing everybody with.
Yeah. But yeah, no, in terms of like learning the workflow and the tools, like the tools, it was really simple because especially like Mozilla, since it's open source, everything is open source, like they don't impose you anything. They have their linter and their code fixer and everything, but you can use your operating system of preference, especially it's multi-platform, so it's good for them if you're using Windows or Linux or Mac OS, so you have more coverage of whatever
Hmm.
you want to code. And tools, they don't pretend you to use their own tools. You can use your favorite code editor.
Oh, nice.
In terms of the workflow, that was kind of hard because, as I said before, it's all there's an issue, go on Bugzilla, check the bug name, and assign it to yourself, and then double check
Mhm.
with the lead developer of the section. There are like these developers called module owners, which are literally like the lead of a specific section. So there's the module owner of the email component, the module owner of the calendar, the module owner of the front end, the UI, the module owner of the backend. And depending on the bug, you need the approval from the module owner of that specific section where the bug was reported in. So it's, yeah, and there are like a million different people. And so the workflow was really, yeah, challenging getting into it. And sometimes I'm still like going into the chat, hey,
Mhm.
who do I ask for this? Like who's the
Yeah.
person should I bother for this? Like I still don't remember. I can reconcile which one is which. But it's a drastically different workflow, I think, from everything else. I don't know how things are working out, like are done in similar companies like Google, like really big companies
Mhm.
where they have big projects where a lot of developers work in completely remotely. So I don't know if they do the same or it's completely different. But yeah, it was a really interesting learning curve. It was really steep. One interesting thing that I never did, they have a try server where you can push your code before getting the approval for your patch. So if you have a patch, you literally have to download the entire source code, all everything, and you apply your patch, see if you have any merging issues or whatever, and
Mhm.
then you ship it to a try server that, depending on your keywords that you ship with your message, it builds on this server the Thunderbird version for Mozilla, for Windows, macOS, and Linux, and it runs all the tests.
Mm.
And it's brutal because it takes up to 2 hours to build
Oh,
everything.
wow.
So literally, you have a patch that it's, I don't know, 100 lines of code. Before getting approved, you need to ship it to the try server, wait, and if you have an error, you need to fix that error and push again to the try server until everything is green. And
Wow.
so sometimes to fix a patch of like a couple of bugs or anything, it just takes like 2 entire days because just push and wait.
That's interesting because I've always wondered when, there's like a bug on one of these, major websites or something, why it takes so long to get fixed. And I wonder if it's a similar process where they're just, you know, it may be a small fix, but they have to really check everything and make sure everything's working and,
Yeah, especially if we're
you know.
talking about multi-platform software,
Mhm.
right? That has
Yeah.
to run like it happened to me because I'm not used to this, but it happened a lot that I created a patch for an issue on Linux and I broke something on macOS. So
Oh.
I'm like, oh, damn it. So I need to test it. I need to create that specific patch with like conditions only if the operating system is the one that I'm expecting to, and all this kind of stuff. But I guess it's the only way, especially in this try server, while it compiles, also it checks your code syntax and it applies some linters and
Mhm.
it just to keep everything consistent. I think it's the only way to be sure that the source code is consistent. It doesn't matter who's
Mhm.
working with. And also the test, like everything gets covered. It's almost like 100% test coverage.
Wow, that's
Eh,
incredible.
It takes, oh my God, just for to run tests, it takes like 45 minutes to, if you want to run every test that they created. And when you do a patch, also you need to update the test to cover that patch, or create the test to cover the patch that if you implemented something new.
Mm.
So it's a really strict project, but I think it's good because it prevents you to ship like random bugs just because you weren't careful.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's good that they do that though, because a lot of companies are more about just shipping first, and then we might get to test later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last point here, and it's something that I struggle with a lot, and that's why probably I got bronchitis when I started working for Mozilla, is the fear of not doing enough. Do you have that?
Yeah, I think this is kind of what happens after the imposter syndrome. Like at first you get offered the job and you accept and you're like, "Oh, I'm not going to be good enough. They're going to see right through me.
Yeah.
It's terrible." And then you get there and then I don't know, I always feel like, especially in those first few months, that I have to prove myself. Like, I
Yeah.
do know what I'm talking about. I do know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, it's like I do my work during the day and then at night I'm like on my phone reading articles about stuff that I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that," or
Yeah.
how do I test this, or and so then it's like the next day I'm like, okay, now I got to try to do what I read last night. And like even today, like my wife had to work, so I went into the office with her and I brought my laptop and I spent about an hour and a half like trying to figure out some integration tests. And because it's just like I want to look good when the next time I meet with this other developer or whatever. And so yeah, I definitely have that. What about you?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I live in fear of everything, especially this. Yeah, no, is the fear of like the people that they hired you having regrets about you because you're
Hmm.
not doing enough. You're like, oh, probably during the weekly meeting I want to show off like, oh, I did this and I fixed this and I implemented this new thing and I found this
Hmm.
new bug and all this kind of like you want to show them that they made the right choice, the right decision in hiring you and not make
Right.
them regret. That's the thing, but it's always like it's always hard to slow down, but it happens kind of like naturally after a while, and it's the same for me as well. Like it takes probably a couple of months, 2 or 3 months to get settled,
Yeah.
and after that you realize the pace of the rest of the team, and it's better to do things slowly and be careful and be thorough instead of just pushing and going as fast as
Hmm.
possible just to show off. But it's kind of normal, especially yeah, you wanna show that you're worth it, and they took the right decision in hiring you. It's I don't know how to battle that. I have no idea. I always fail.
Yeah, I wish I had the answer because I'm the exact same way. I'm always worried about, like, oh, well, in the first 90 days they can fire me without any reason, and
Yeah.
it's the probationary period. I gotta look good. And
Yeah, I gotta
so
push it. I gotta push it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Oh yes, and then get sick. Yeah, that's the thing.
yeah.
We got a sweet question related to both of us from our
Mhm.
audience, from our dear friend Lawrence Bahirwa, Omuki guy on Twitter. That probably we could like safely say that he's our number one fan in the
I
world.
think so. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
definitely.
fine. Yeah, okay. We're gonna send you a T-shirt. Yeah, no, I need to do that. Yeah, I need to send you a
Yeah.
T-shirt. And to you too, Chris. I need to send you a T-shirt. Come on. So his question is, how do you adjust new job and personal projects?
Mhm.
Do you want to go with that?
Yeah. So going on with the last one about really pushing myself to pick up on all the things I missed in the last 2 years and prove myself. This has definitely affected my personal projects. I've not done a whole lot of work on the Code Stage project.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I feel like that's starting to change now that I feel a little more comfortable with my role. But yeah, it's kind of like you get a new job, and the new job is like number one priority on everything. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it's tough to kind of balance that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And same for me. Like everything goes into the bin
Hmm.
whenever, into the toilet. Whenever I change job, all my personal schedules and my work-life balance, everything goes away because it's a different priority that you
Hmm.
realize that's your main source of income. And that's what you need to
Hmm.
do in order to survive. And you don't want to go through the process of finding a new job if this one doesn't go through.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So all your like hobbies and other things that are not really necessary, like making videos or coding your applications or other
Mhm.
things, it's just like they don't have a priority anymore. They're just on a back shelf, and slowly you're gonna get used to it. But there's always that adjustment period of 2 3 months where you cannot pretend to keep your schedule as it was before with your
Mhm.
previous job that you've been into for 2 years. It's never going to happen. So you just need to, at least for me, but probably there's someone out there that is a superhuman. I can do that, can deal with that. But probably for us, it's just, I'm too tired or I'm too focused on actually doing a good job in my new
Mhm.
role than spending time on personal projects. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. Well, I think we're at the end of this beautiful episode. Probably we
Mhm.
cover pretty much all the struggles and everything that is terrible about
Yeah.
like finding a new job and starting a new job. It's an amazing experience, and it's rewarding, it's challenging, it's a really positive challenge. But of course there are like some weird and not really pleasant things that you need to get used to it.
Mhm.
But it's just, yeah, it's normal. So hopefully this list helped someone to
Yeah.
figure things out. I have a couple of recommendations for our users for our listeners before concluding, which are I'm just like shouting the competition, but two great podcasts here. The first one, I think I mentioned before, this podcast called Grumpy Old Geeks. And you can find it at the website gog.show. These guys are amazing, are like grumpy old geeks. That's the explanation of what they do. And they talk about technology from like a security point of view. They talk about all the major fuck ups that happened in the technology. They talk a lot about Facebook or like these big companies, what they're doing with the money. It's really insightful and makes you realize how this internet world is not as pretty as we think it is. It's really great. And the other one is Zigzag Podcast, which is a podcast founded by two incredible women that are talking about technology and innovation, but also from a more human point of view, how to adapt to this crazy environment. And if you have an idea, you don't have to be a unicorn startup that has to raise $1 million. You can be eco-friendly, environmentally thorough, and all these like really, really interesting things. So really highly suggested podcasts.
Nice.
Do you have any recommendation for our audience?
Nope.
No.
I've been too busy to even listen to podcasts.
I know.
I need to start doing that again.
I know. Yeah, I get bored when I walk my dog, so I need to. I need something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's really like antisocial practice, because sometimes I'm walking and people, they talk to me and they say, "Oh, that's a cute dog. What's his name?" And I don't even look at them because I'm listening to about. But I have a toque. I have a hat that covers my ear, so they don't see my headphones, my earbuds. So I look like a douchebag that doesn't want to answer people. Just it's not really great. But that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, as usual, you can find us on Twitter at NerdContinuity. And if you want to send us a message, just right there, tweet us, send us a direct message. And where can people find you, Chris?
You can find me on chrisperko.net. You can find me on Twitter at chrisjperko. And you can find me on YouTube, which I'm sure there'll be a link in the description.
Absolutely. And looking forward to your C# and ASP.NET series. That's going to be really fantastic, I'm sure. And thank you so much for listening. Until the next episode, as usual, happy coding. And let's wait for Chris.
Ciao.